All right, welcome everybody to the presentation. I am Trevor. I'm going to be hosting this one, and we're talking today about the news related to the eBay and PayPal split. A lot of you guys have probably heard this news. We're not breaking news on this, of course, because this has been news for 6 months or more. But since the news came out, we've learned a lot about why it's taking place, what effect that's going to have on sellers, and I think that's the big question for you guys. How does that affect me as an eBay seller or a PayPal user? Well, let me explain. Let's go through this a little bit. All right, so specifically, let's talk about what's happening first. In the second half of 2015, so this year, eBay and PayPal will be splitting into two separate companies, okay? Now they've been the same company now since 2002, but so what, the last 13 years they've been essentially the same company, but they've been different branches of the same company, if that makes sense. Here's the history behind it. So 2002, eBay actually acquired PayPal. So PayPal was originally just a separate company, as was eBay. Well, in 2002, eBay saw fit to gobble them up and buy them. So PayPal became part of eBay and has been ever since 2002. Here's the issue, though, and you can see in my note below that, in recent years, PayPal has sort of been outpacing the growth of eBay. Okay? So for whatever reason, and we can talk about some of those reasons here, but PayPal is growing at a faster pace than eBay, and so that's part of the reason why a split's going to take place. And here's a little graph to explain what I mean. So this is revenue. Okay, this graph shows revenue, and the purple bar is eBay revenue. Marketplaces, so eBay and all their associated marketplaces, and then the blue revenue, or the blue bar, is payments, mostly representing PayPal. So you can look at them respectively as eBay and PayPal and their revenue. So back in 2006, you can see the disparity is quite large, right? eBay carries most of the revenue. 2007, same kind of disparity, but look over the course of 2006 all the way up to 2013 specifically, at least with the data that this graph shows. See how that disparity is getting smaller and smaller? And really, PayPal is starting to grow so quickly, and there's so many more opportunities now for them than there ever has been, that it makes sense for the company to split so that PayPal can focus on PayPal and eBay can focus on eBay. Okay. So I'm curious, do you guys, this guy, have you seen him before? This guy familiar to anybody here? You ever heard of Carl Icahn? If you're if you know anything about investing, you read the Wall Street Journal a little bit. Anybody in the finance world knows this guy is a multi-billionaire, owns massive stakes in companies like Apple, eBay. He's in the news a lot. I mean, this guy is just about as rich as they get. And he's really well known in the finance world for pushing his weight around. So because he has so much money, he can go in and buy up a big majority of a large publicly traded company, and then force the company to do things that he wants them to do. An example of that is he did this a few years ago with Apple. He owns a pretty good stake in Apple. And if you own a big stake in a company that's publicly traded, you're usually on the board of directors, or you have some pull on the board of directors, and you're the person who, in part, sort of decides on who's the CEO and who's running the company. I mean, that's how powerful this guy is. And so he tried to push his weight around a little bit with Apple and some of these other big companies. Well, recently, he's been trying to push his weight around with eBay and PayPal. And he's one of the ones that they say that was kind of the catalyst behind them deciding to split, because he didn't see why it made any sense at all that they should even be the same company anymore, just because they have different goals. Anyway, you'll see more why about that here in just a second. This is the big reason why the split took place. Is probably, I mean, I've mentioned several already, but this guy right here, you can see the quote. It says it's as if Target owned, and that's a typo. That should say Visa. It's as if Target owned Visa or something, which doesn't make sense, right? Like Target, if you think about Target as a company, Target, their goal is to sell products, right? They sell normal retail products to the end consumer. It wouldn't make sense if a branch of Target was Visa. Even though they're related and customers may use Visa to pay Target, Visa's goals are totally different than Target's. And in a similar way, eBay owning PayPal doesn't really make sense either. Sure, they supplement each other, but PayPal's goal is to be the payment processor that everybody uses, and they've got lots of opportunity outside of eBay. eBay's goal is to grow and become bigger like Amazon. They're just, the directions of the companies are just changing a little bit over the years as they've both gotten bigger and bigger. So that quote right there really resonates, because if you think about it, it doesn't really make sense. Why they can complement each other just like Visa and Target, but they certainly shouldn't be the same company. And in the end, I think somebody weeks ago on one of these calls mentioned about, really the reason behind the split is it's about money, right? Isn't it about money with most things in business? I would say that it is, right? And in this case, that's definitely the case. They just feel like that they can make more money. Shareholders, owners of the companies can make more money if they split and go different routes. eBay will concentrate all of its work on developing marketplaces. PayPal will concentrate on competing with, like Apple Pay. You guys have probably heard of Apple Pay coming out, or I don't know, with the big IPO of Alibaba over the last year. They need payment processing. PayPal may want to try to get in with Amazon. Like, they want to be the preferred payment solution for everybody out there, and that's their goal. So because those goals are going different directions, again, there's a good reason for the split. Okay, so here's the question that you guys are probably asking. I mean, this is all interesting, right? Some interesting history behind the companies. It's interesting to know why strategically they might want to be moving in different directions and splitting. But how does it affect me as an eBay seller? That's probably why most of you guys are here or even care about all of this. And the bullet at the top is really how we feel it shouldn't. It shouldn't affect you in the least. This split's supposed to happen at some point later this year. I don't think there's a definite date on it because they're filing, PayPal is going to go public as their own company. It just takes time to do this stuff. So it's projected that later this year it'll happen, but it's not going to affect us in any sort of significant way right away. Now, nobody really knows exactly, right, because the split hasn't happened, but it's suggested it won't affect us because of this agreement. Okay, there's a very specific agreement that's put into the contract with those two companies splitting, and here's what it is. For the next 5 years, the agreement is that eBay has to have 80% of all of its payments that take place on eBay, they have to stay as PayPal. That's the rule for the next 5 years. Now, here's the stipulation. If eBay, and hopefully this will make sense, but I'm going to just read this first bullet point. For each percentage point above 80%, PayPal has to pay eBay $13 million per percentage point. So if, for example, eBay ends up processing 82% of their transactions using PayPal, then eBay is going to get a $26 million bonus. Okay, but vice versa, if eBay doesn't use PayPal as much, and they use them 78% of the time for their processing, then it flips around. That $26 million would go the opposite direction. You see that? So both companies have some incentive, especially eBay, they've got some incentive here to continue to use PayPal, because if they don't, per percentage point, they have to pay out $13 million. And so I think they put this little agreement together so that over the next 5 years, PayPal and eBay can grow their own legs and not be so married to each other. But during that transition time, nothing drastic is going to take place. Because after all, 80% of the transactions still have to be PayPal on eBay, or else eBay is going to be paying out serious money. So why that's significant to us is because, well, that's how everybody's used to using eBay. I mean, you can actually buy product off of eBay using different payment providers, but it's not easy, and none of you have probably ever done it because it's very rare. So it's going to continue to be the same virtually for the next 5 years, and that'll be that. So for that reason, we don't suspect there's going to be any significant change at all in the way we sell on eBay, the way PayPal is the main provider on eBay. I think all of that's going to stay virtually the same. 5 years from now, though, when that agreement has been terminated and they're both moving in different directions, then there might be significant changes, and we'll address those then. But we've got 5 years for that. So that's our best prediction. Obviously, nobody really knows for sure, but we assume that there'll be very little change, and that should be a good thing for everybody. Okay, so a couple of places. If you guys want to read up more on this whole situation, you can read up a couple of resources for you guys. I'm just going to leave here on the page for a few minutes. You want to write these down or go to these places and learn more about it, you're definitely welcome to. But that's kind of those are the high points right there of why the change. Okay. All right. So questions about the split? I've gotten so many in the last couple of months that it was time to talk about it. So questions, concerns about eBay, PayPal, some of the things we've talked about, or does that make sense to everybody? Let's see. John, I see your question here. How much money does PayPal, eBay have to handle a year to afford to give away $13 million? I think that's why they set the agreement as it is. I haven't dug into the financials of the companies, but from what I've read and from what I understand, $13 million is significant enough for both companies to not want to deviate too much from that 80% rule. Except for PayPal would stand to benefit, because if PayPal was used 81% of the time or 82% of the time on eBay, 83% of the time, they don't mind paying out $13 million because they're making up that money and more in that extra percentage of transactions that takes place. So PayPal would like to see more being used. I think PayPal is doing this more to protect themselves, so that eBay doesn't go out and create some other processor and force everybody into that. So I think that number is significant enough to prevent that type of thing from happening, so that 80% stays pretty constant. That would be my best guess. Yeah, well, I'm glad. Some of you guys are saying that you've had some concerns about it. Robert, you said that that's something that you've been a little worried about. I was too when I first heard the news. But eBay is such a healthy company, and so is PayPal. I mean, I know we talked about how PayPal is growing faster, but that doesn't mean eBay is not healthy. I mean, just to show you guys, I've showed you this before, but my goodness, go look at eBay stock. And eBay is as healthy as any company out there. eBay is trading at $63.21 a share. Here's their graph over the last 10 years. Their stock's at its highest point that it's ever been in the last 10 years. So, I mean, they're healthy, and with the news of this change, it hasn't affected their stock price at all, hardly. It's gone up since then. So I don't worry about eBay being an ongoing concern. I certainly don't worry about PayPal. They're going to continue to grow the way they are. So we're just, we'll see how it goes over the next few years. The percentage per sale, Delia, it depends. But in most cases, it's for each transaction that takes place, 3% of the transaction amount goes out and pays PayPal. 3%. High volume sellers on eBay qualify for lower rates. If you're doing a lot of sales on eBay, you'll go from the 2.93% range to less, 2.5% or even lower. So there's volume discounts, but that's about what you can expect. Yeah. Good question. Anything else as it relates to this specifically, guys? If not, we'll turn off the recording, we'll finish up, and then we'll just open it up just for a few minutes for some Q&A. Just about general eBay things, and then we'll be good to go. I'll let you guys go on your Friday. And if you are curious, I think the ticker symbol, the stock symbol for PayPal, I think it's going to be PYPL, I want to say. They're not on the stock exchange yet, but they will be here in the next few months. Yeah, the percentage won't increase, Delia. It'll stay the same. It'll stay at 2.9%. If they increase that percentage due to the split, and they just said, all right, eBay, we want to do a higher percentage. I'm sure that's written in the contracts that they can't do that, but it would be harmful to them, because if that percentage got too high, what naturally happens if sellers are hit with a higher transaction percentage? What would be the natural consequence of that? All of a sudden, everybody on eBay has to pay 4.5% instead of 3%. What would happen as a result? What do you guys think? Yeah, like other payment methods? Sure, Delia. I think so. Other payments would come in. Sellers would be forced to charge more for their products. And if price goes up on everything, demand's going to decrease. And that's pretty simple economics. And if that happens, then there's going to be fewer buyers. eBay and PayPal stand to lose. So there's not really any incentive to do that. It'll stay the same. Joy, I don't think you can buy stock in PayPal right now. It's going to have what's called an IPO, which is the initial public offering, and that date is set at some point later this year. You'll have to watch the news, because as soon as they go public, you'll be able to buy stock in them. You definitely would be able to, and that with the way they're growing, I mean, I know I can't give you guys investment advice, but it might be a stock that you want to look at, you know? I probably will. Bigger companies like eBay, even some of the largest companies out there, they're big and successful, but there's not as much growth opportunity because they've been around for so long. Instead of growth, they're just extremely profitable. And that's where eBay is. They're very profitable. PayPal is more in growth mode. They're still profitable, but they're in extreme growth mode for sure. All right, cool. All right, I'm going to turn off the recording. For you guys who are watching this recorded, thanks for coming, and hopefully this helped you understand why eBay and PayPal are splitting. We'll see you next time.